very interesting. She's released a book, Delicious, A Delicious Bunch. Absolutely beautiful book. Madonna, you've got it right there, haven't you?
It's a gorgeous book.
It's wonderful photography and wonderful ideas if you want to get healthy, how to eat naturally, and Linda's going to tell us all about it.
Thank you, Madonna. It's lovely to be here too.
Yeah, welcome. You did it.
I did it. It's nerve-wracking when you get lost in your own area, isn't it?
Yes. So you've been doing this sort of thing for a long time, obviously. This is your passion, this is your life.
It is. I was a midwife for 20-something years. And then when I was in my late 20s, while I was still a midwife, I retrained in horticulture and I just loved it so much. I went on to do environmental education at uni and that sort of thing as well. But what came through to me from the time I was a nurse and a young midwife was that really we are what we eat. And in those days I was seeing babies being born who were a reflection of their mother and their mother's diet. And it was then that I realised how important that eating well and treating yourself well was.
Were you able to influence those mothers then into it, or was it too late by that stage?
I think you get every chance you can, really. When I was working at the Ballarat Base Hospital, I was in charge of antenatal clinic there as well. So you do have a really good ability to impress people with good, sensible advice.
Yes.
Hey Linda, just changing the subject a little bit, speaking about children being born, reflecting what their mothers eat. Mothers who drink to excess when a child is born, can the child be born with like a withdrawal from alcohol?
Oh, there is a condition called fetal alcohol syndrome, which is very serious. And yes, that needs quite serious medical intervention before and after birth. Yeah.
Very sad. And can that then reflect in that child as they mature in later life? They could have a leaning towards alcoholism?
Oh, look, I wouldn't know actually, Roger. I'm not experienced in that. I think you'd probably have to interview someone like a paediatrician or a child developmental person regarding that.
Well, let's get back to your book and the wonderful recipes you have there.
So what are some tips to get people started with integrating some flowers, organics, into their life? How would you go about getting people enthusiastic to even get started?
Well, can I just say the first thing is grow organically if you possibly can. And I don't see any reason why we couldn't grow everything organically, particularly in our own gardens. We are just surrounded by so many chemicals that we don't need to be putting more chemicals onto our food that we grow ourselves, because we want to grow it so it's different and it's better and it's fresher than what we get from even the shops. So grow organically, and the first part of the book actually details how you would grow flowers organically, but that's relevant to vegetables and fruit trees and so on as well. And you don't need to just go into your supermarket or to the hardware store and buy chemicals. Many of the things you can actually make at home, or techniques you can use at home, including companion planting and crop rotation to reduce the number of insects and diseases in your garden.
Can you talk about that for a moment? So people might not have heard those terms before.
So companion planting, whether it's with flowers in a veggie garden,
so things like marigold, things that are strong smelling?
Yes, yeah. There's a number of different reasons why we would companion plant. One might be to increase the vigour and vitality of the plants that you're already growing. So, for example, I find the herb tulsi growing under our apple trees produces really vibrant, beautiful apples on our Espalier tropical apples. So you'll find that when you come to my garden, there are tulsi herbs growing underneath the apple trees. So then the next reason you might want to do it is to act as a foil towards insects. So say we've got those white cabbage butterflies coming into the garden, zooming in on your Asian greens and your cabbages in the winter time and so on. If you plant flowers and other herbs in between the rows or blocks of those,
right,
the fragrance but also the colour and shape of those flowers and herbs confuses the butterflies, so they don't know where to lay.
Right.
So that's another way. And then, of course, you might grow marigolds with tomatoes, because the marigolds, the little French marigolds, exude a gas from their leaves, petals, and they attract to deflect insects, and then they also attract those root knot nematodes to the roots. So they're not going to your tomato roots, they're rather going to the French marigold roots. So at the end of the season, when you've planted French marigolds around your tomatoes, you just pull up the French marigold, cut off the roots and solarise that in a black plastic bag to make them all go mushy and kill any nematodes. And then the top part of it can go into your compost, which makes a beautiful, rich, lovely addition to your soil thereafter.
Right. So if someone was going to get started, what would a few of your favourites be that are easy to grow that people could get started on?
In as far as edible flowers?
Yeah.
Well, I would have to say the annuals, which are the things that only last for 4 months, can be quite consistently time consuming when you first start in gardening.
Right.
So I would put in, if you were just starting, one of my absolute favourites, and it's my go-to snack in the veggie garden, which are daylilies.
Right.
Isn't
You
that
can eat
amazing?
daylilies.
Yes.
There goes my daylilies.
Now, remember, you don't want to eat the flowers that have been sprayed with any toxics, pesticides or fungicides.
Right.
So, Roger, your roses at your place, if they've been sprayed with a fungicide, you mustn't eat those. But daylilies generally don't need that sort of treatment. And as
They're pretty tough, yeah.
they're very tough. As each flower opens up just for one day, you can just wander through the garden and pick off some of the petals. They're chewy. No, they're not chewy. They're actually crisp and slightly sweet, and they're absolutely delicious.
And what would you have them with? Like,
well, you know, the Chinese and the Japanese have been eating daylilies for at least 2,000 years. So even now we have hybridized forms. We can eat all of the colours and all of the daylilies. I have in the book, in a delicious bunch, a recipe for daylilies, which is stuffed with a beautiful, or piped with a beautiful sweet cream cheese.
oh,
Yeah,
yum.
if you want something savoury, and not everybody does the dairy option, if you want something savoury, you can just pick the little buds of the daylilies, which in ancient times Buddha called golden needles, and you can stir fry those with a little bit of soy sauce, tamari soy sauce, which is gluten-free, and a little bit of sweet chili sauce if you want, and some garlic. 2 minutes is all it takes, and they are absolutely delicious as a
Wow.
main course with steamed rice.
Linda, I'm having a barbecue tonight. I think I might just invite you around. You can pick my daylilies, you can snip the roses. And I do have some, what's the one that deters insects? You know?
Marigolds.
Yes, I planted some just the other day, so you will be impressed, I tell you. Hey,
Good on you.
We're talking Bay Health with Madonna Guy and special guest Linda Brennan.